That's it. That's why we haven't gotten Winds of Winter. He fell in love, and he forgot his duty. He's living the story, and we have to suffer the price. Us common people, waiting for Winds of Winter.
John. "Are you well, Snow?" Lord Mormont asked, scowling. "Well," his raven squawked. "Well." "I am, my lord," John lied, loudly, as if that would make it true. "And you?" Mormont frowned. "A dead man tried to kill me. How well could I be?" He scratched under his chin. His shaggy grey beard had been singed in the fire, and he'd hacked it off. The pale stubble of his new whiskers made him look old, disreputable, and grumpy. "You do not look well. How is your hand?" "Healing." John flexed his bandaged fingers to show him. He had burned himself more badly than he knew, throwing the flaming drapes, and his right hand was swathed in silk halfway up to the elbow. At the time he'd felt nothing. The agony had come after. His cracked red skin oozed fluid, and fearsome blood blisters rose between his fingers, big as roaches. "The maester says I'll have scars, but otherwise the hand should be as good as it was before." "A scarred hand is nothing. On the wall you'll be wearing gloves often as not." "As you say, my lord." It was not the thought of scars that troubled John. It was the rest of it. Maester Aemon had given him milk of the poppy, yet even so the pain had been hideous. At first Ed had felt as if his hand was still aflame, burning day and night. Only plunging it into basins of snow and shaved ice gave any relief at all. John thanked the gods that no one but ghosts saw him writhing in his bed, whimpering from the pain. And when at last he did sleep, he dreamt. And that was even worse. In the dream, the corpse he fought had blue eyes, black hands, and his father's face, but he dare not tell Mormont that. "Tywin and Hake returned last night," the old bear said. "They found no sign of your uncle, no more than the others did." "I know." John had dragged himself to the common hall to sup with his friends, and the failure of the Rangers' search had been all the men had been talking of. "You know," Mormont grumbled, "how is it that everyone knows everything around here?" He did not seem to expect an answer. "It would seem that there were only two of those creatures, whatever they were. I will not call them men, and thank the gods for that. Any more, and, well, that doesn't bear thinking of. There'll be more, though. I can feel it in these old bones of mine, and Maester Aemon agrees. The cold winds are rising. Summer is at an end, and a winter is coming, such as the world has never seen." Winter is coming. The stark words had never sounded so grim or ominous to John as they did now. "My lord," he asked hesitantly, "it said there was a bird last night." "There was? What of it?" I had hoped for some word of my father." "Father!" taunted the old raven, bobbing its head as it walked across Mormont's shoulders. "Father!" The Lord Commander had reached up to pinch its beak shut, but the raven hopped up on his head, fluttered its wings, and flew across the chamber to light above a window. "Grief and noise," Mormont grumbled. "That's all they're good for, ravens. Why, I put up with that pestilential bird. If there was news of Lord Eddard, don't you think I would have sent for you? Bastard or no bastard, you're still his blood. The message concerned Barristan Selmy. It seems he's been removed from the Kingsguard. They gave his place to that black dog Clegane, and now Selmy's wanted for treason. The fool sent some watchmen to seize him, but he slew two of them and escaped." Mormont snorted, leaving no doubt of his view of men who'd send gold cloaks against a knight as renowned as Barristan the Bold. "We have white shadows in the woods and unquiet dead stalking our halls, and a boy sits the Iron Throne," he said in disgust. The raven laughed shrilly. "Boy, boy, boy, boy!" Sir Barristan had been the old bear's best hope, John remembered. If he had fallen, what chance was there that Mormont's letter would be heeded? He curled his hand into a fist. Pain shot through his burned fingers. "What of my sisters?" "The message made no mention of Lord Eddard or the girls." He gave an irritated shrug. "Perhaps they never got my letter. Aemon sent 2 copies, with his best birds, but who can say? More like Pycelle didn't deign to reply. It wouldn't be the first time, nor the last." I think we count for less than nothing in King's Landing. They tell us what they want us to know, and that's little enough." "And you tell me what you want me to know, and that's less," John thought resentfully. His brother Rob had called the banners and ridden south to war, yet no word of that had been breathed to him, save by Samwell Tarley, who'd read the letter to Maester Aemon and whispered its contents to John that night in secret, all the time saying how he shouldn't. Doubtless they thought his brother's war was none of his concern. It troubled him more than he could say. Rob was marching, and he was not. No matter how often John told himself that his place was here now, with his new brothers on the wall, he still felt craven. "Corn!" the raven was crying. "Corn! Corn!" "Oh, be quiet," the old bear told it. "Snow, how soon does Maester Aemon say you'll have used to that hand again?" "Soon," John replied. "Good." On the table between them, Lord Mormont laid a large sword in a black metal scabbard banded with silver. "Here, you'll be ready for this, then." The raven flapped down and landed on the table, strutting toward the sword, head cocked curiously. John hesitated. He had no inkling what this meant. "My lord?" "A fire melted the silver off the pommel and burnt the crossguard and grip. Well, dry leather and old wood, what would you expect? The blade now? You'll need a fire 100 times as hot to harm the blade." Mormont shoved the scabbard across the rough oak planks. "I had the rest made anew. Take it." "Take it!" echoed his raven, preening. "Take it! Take it!" Awkwardly, John took the sword in hand. His left hand. His bandaged right was still too raw and clumsy. Carefully, he pulled it from its scabbard and raised it level with his eyes. The pommel was a hunk of pale stone weighted with lead to balance the long blade. It had been carved into likeness of a snarling wolf's head, with chips of garnet set into the eyes. The grip was virgin leather, soft and black, and yet unstained by sweat or blood. The blade itself was a good half-foot longer than those John was used to, tapered to thrust as well as jab, with 3 fullers deeply incised in the steel. Where ice was a true two-handed greatsword, this was a hand and a halfer, sometimes called a bastard sword. Yet the wolf sword actually seemed lighter than the blades he'd wielded before. When John turned it sideways, he could see the ripples in the dark steel where the metal had been folded back on itself again and again. "This is Valyrian steel, my lord," he said wonderingly. His father had let him handle ice often enough. He knew the look, the feel. "It is," the old bear told him. "It was my father's sword and his father before him. The Mormonts have carried it for 5 centuries. I wielded it back in my day and passed it on to my son when I took the black." "He's giving me his son's sword." John could scarcely believe it. The blade was exquisitely balanced. The edges glimmered faintly as they kissed the light. "Your son?" "My son has brought dishonour to House Mormont, but at the least he had the grace to leave the sword behind when he fled. My sister returned it to my keeping, but the very sight of it reminds me of Jorah's shame, so I put it aside and thought no more of it until we found it in the ashes of my bedchamber. The original pommel was a bear's head, silver, yet so worn its features were all but indistinguishable. For you, I thought a white wolf more apt. One of our own builders is a fair stone carver." When John had been Bran's age, he had dreamed of doing great deeds, as boys always did. The details of his feats changed with every dreaming, but quite often he imagined saving his father's life. Afterward, Lord Eddard would declare that John had proved himself a true Stark and place ice in his hands. Even then he had known it was only a child's folly. No bastard could ever hope to wield a father's sword. Even the memory shamed him. What kind of man stole his own brother's birthright? "I have no right to this," he thought. "No more than to ice." He twitched his burned fingers, feeling a throb of pain deep under the skin. "My lord, you honour me, but—" "Spare your buts, boy," Lord Mormont interrupted. "I would not be sitting here were it not for you and that beast of yours. You fought bravely, and more to the point, you thought quickly. Fire. Yes, damn it, we ought to have known. We ought to have remembered. The long night has come before. Oh, 8,000 years is a good while to be sure. Yet if the Night's Watch doesn't remember, who will?" "Who will?" chimed the talkative raven. "Who will?" Truly, the gods had heard John's prayer that night. The fire had caught in the dead man's clothing and consumed him as if his flesh were candle wax and his bones old dry wood. John had only to close his eyes to see the thing staggering across the solar, crashing against the furniture and flailing at the flames. It was the face that haunted him most, surrounded by a nimbus of fire, hair blazing like straw, the dead flesh melting away and sloughing off its skull to reveal the gleam of bone beneath. Whatever demonic force moved Othor had been driven out by the flames. The twisted thing they'd found in the ashes had been no more than cooked meat and charred bone, yet in his nightmare he faced it again. And this time the burning corpse wore Lord Eddard's features. It was his father's skin that burst and blackened, his father's eyes that ran liquid down his cheeks like jellied tears. John did not understand why that should be or what it might mean, but it frightened him more than he could say. "A sword's a small payment for a life," Mormont concluded. "Take it, I'll hear no more of it. Is that understood?" "Yes, my lord." The soft leather gave beneath John's fingers, as if the sword were moulding itself to his grip already. He knew he should be honoured, and he was. And yet, he is not my father. The thought leapt unbidden to John's mind. Lord Eddard Stark is my father. I will not forget him, no matter how many swords they give me. Yet he could scarcely tell Lord Mormont that it was another man's sword he dreamed of. "I want no courtesies either," Mormont said. "So thank me, no thanks. Honour the steel with deeds, not words." John nodded. "Does it have a name, my lord?" "It did, once. Longclaw it was called." "Claw!" the raven cried. "Claw!" "Longclaw is an apt name." John tried a practice cut. He was clumsy and uncomfortable with his left hand, yet even so the steel seemed to flow through the air as if it had a will of its own. "Wolves have claws as much as bears." The old bear seemed pleased by that. "I suppose they do. You want to wear that over your shoulder, I imagine. It's too long for the hip, at least until you've put on a few inches, and you'll need to work at your two-handed strikes as well. Sir Endrew can show you some moves when your burns have healed." "Sir Endrew?" John did not know the name. "Sir Endrew Tarth, a good man. He's on his way from the Shadow Tower to assume the duties of Master-at-Arms. Sir Alistair Thorne left yestermorn for Eastwatch by the sea." John lowered the sword. "Why?" he said stupidly. Mormont snorted. "Because I sent him, why do you think? He's bringing the hand your ghost tore off the end of Jafer Flower's wrists. I've commanded him to take the ship to King's Landing and lay it before this boy king. That should get young Joffrey's attention, I think. And Sir Alistair's a knight, high-born, anointed with the old friends at court, altogether harder to ignore than a glorified crow." "Crow!" John thought the raven sounded faintly indignant. "As well," the Lord Commander continued, ignoring the bird's protest. "It puts 1,000 leagues twixt you and him without seeming a rebuke." He jabbed a finger up at John's face. "And don't think this means I approve of that nonsense in the common hall. Valour makes up for a fair amount of folly, but you're not a boy any more, however many years you've seen. That's a man's sword you have there, and it'll take a man to wield her. I expect you to act the part henceforth." "Yes, my lord." John slid the sword back into the silver-banded scabbard. If not the blade he would have chosen, it was none the less a noble gift, and freeing him from Alistair Thorne's malignance was nobler still. The old bear scratched at his chin. "I forgot how much a beard itches," he said. "Well, no help for that. Is that hand of yours healed enough to resume your duties?" "Yes, my lord." "Good. The night'll be cold. I'll want hot spice wine. Find me a flagon of red, not too sour, and don't skimp on the spices. And tell Orb that if he sends me boiled mutton again, I'll boil him. That last haunch was grey. Even the bird won't touch it." He stroked the raven's head with his thumb, and the bird made a contented quawking sound. "Away with you. I've got work to do." The guards smiled at him from their niches as he wound his way down the turret stair, carrying the sword in his good hand. "Sweet steel," one man said. "You earned that, Snow," another told him. John made himself smile at them, but his heart was not in it. He knew he should be pleased, yet he didn't feel it. His hand ached, and the taste of anger was in his mouth, though he could not have said who he was angry with or why. A half-dozen of his friends were lurking outside when he left the King's Tower, where Lord Commander Mormont now made his residence. They hung a target on the granary door so they could seem to be honing their skills as archers, but he knew lurkers when he saw them. No sooner did he emerge than Pip called out, "Well, come about, let's have a look." "At what?" John said. Toad sidled closer. "Your rosy butt-cheeks, what else?" "The sword," Gren stated. "We want to see the sword." John raked them with an accusing look. "You knew." Pip grinned. "We're not all as dumb as Gren." "You are so," insisted Gren. "You're dumber." Halder gave an apologetic shrug. "I helped Pate carve the stone from the pommel," the builder said, "and your friend Sam bought the garnets in Molestown." "We knew even before that, though," Gren said. "Roger's been helping Donald Noy in the forge. He was there when the old bear brought him the burnt blade." "The sword!" Matt insisted. The others looked up the chant. "The sword! The sword! The sword!" John unsheathed Longclaw and showed it to them, turning it this way and that so they could admire it. The bastard blade glittered in the pale sunlight, dark and deadly. "Valyrian steel," he declared solemnly, trying to sound as pleased and proud as he ought to have felt. "I heard of a man who had a razor blade made of Valyrian steel," declared Toad. "He cut off his head trying to shave." Pip grinned. "The Night's Watch is thousands of years old," he said. "But I'll wager Lord Snow's the first brother ever to be honoured for burning down the Lord Commander's tower." The others laughed, and even John had to smile. The fire he'd started had not, in truth, burned down that formidable stone tower, but it had done a fair job of gutting the interior of the top 2 floors, where the old bear had his chambers. No one seemed to mind that very much, since it had also destroyed Othor's murderous corpse. The other wight, the one-handed thing that had once been a ranger named Jaffa Flowers, had also been destroyed, cut near to pieces by a dozen swords, but not before it had slain Sir Jeremy Riker and 4 other men. Sir Jeremy had finished the job of hacking its head off, yet had died all the same when the headless corpse pulled his own dagger from its sheath and buried it in his bowels. Strength and courage did not avail much against the foemen who could not fall because they were already dead. Even arms and armour offered small protection. The grim thought soured John's fragile mood. "I need to see Hob about the old bear's supper," he announced brusquely, sliding Longclaw back into its scabbard. His friends meant well, but they didn't understand. It was not their fault, truly. They had not had to face Othor. They had not seen the pale glow of those dead blue eyes, had not felt the cold of those dead black fingers, nor did they know of the fighting in the Riverlands. How could they hope to comprehend? He turned away from them abruptly and strode off, sullen. Pip called after him, but John paid no mind. They had moved him back to his old cell in Tumbledown Harden's tower after the fire, and it was there that he returned. Ghost was curled up asleep beside the door, but he lifted his head at the sound of John's boots. The direwolf's red eyes were darker than garnets, and wiser than men. John knelt, scratched his ear, and showed him the pommel of the sword. "Look, it's you." Ghost sniffed at his curved stone likeness and tried a lick. John smiled. "You're the one who deserves an honour," he told the wolf. And suddenly he found himself remembering how he'd found him, that day in the late summer snow. They'd been riding off with the other pups, but John had heard a noise and turned back, and there he was, white fur almost invisible against the drifts. He was all alone, he thought, apart from the others in the litter. He was different, so they drove him off. "John?" He looked up. Samwell Tarley stood rocking nervously on his heels. His cheeks were red, and he was wrapped in a heavy fur cloak that made him look ready for hibernation. "Sam?" John stood. "What is it? Do you want to see the sword?" If the others had known, no doubt Sam did too. The fat boy shook his head. "I was heir to my father's blade once," he said mournfully. "Heart's pain. Lord Randall let me hold it a few times, but it always scared me. It was Valyrian steel, beautiful, but so sharp I was afraid I'd hurt one of my sisters. Dickon'll have it now." He wiped sweaty hands on his cloak. Maester Aemon wants to see you." It was not time for his bandages to be changed. John frowned suspiciously. "Why?" he demanded. Sam looked miserable. That was answer enough. "You told him, didn't you?" John said angrily. "You told him that you told me." John, I didn't want to... He asked... I mean, I think he knew. He sees things no one else sees." "He's blind," John pointed out, forcefully, disgusted. "I can find the way myself." He left Sam standing there, open-mouthed and quivering. He found Maester Aemon up in the rookery feeding the ravens. Clydas was with him, carrying a bucket of chopped meat as they shuffled from cage to cage. "Sam said you wanted me." The maester nodded. "I did indeed. Clydas, give John the bucket. Perhaps he will be kind enough to assist me." The hunched, pink-eyed brother handed John the bucket and scurried down the ladder. "Toss the meat into the cages," Aemon instructed him. "The birds will do the rest." John shifted the bucket to his right hand and thrust the left down into the bloody bits. The ravens began to scream noisily and fly at the bars, beating at the metal with night-black wings. The meat had been chopped into pieces no larger than a finger-point. He filled his fist and tossed the red raw morsels into the cage, and the squawking and squabbling grew hotter. Feathers flew as two of the larger birds fought over a choice piece. Quickly John grabbed a second handful and threw it in after the first. "Lord Mormont's raven likes fruit and corn." "He's a rare bird," the maester said. "Most ravens will eat grain, but they prefer flesh. It makes them strong, and I fear they relish the taste of blood, in that they are like men. And like men, not all ravens are alike." John had nothing to say to that. He threw meat, wondering why he'd been summoned. No doubt the old man would tell him in his own good time. Maester Aemon was not a man to be hurried. "Doves and pigeons can also be trained to carry messages," the maester went on. "Though the raven is a stronger flyer, larger, bolder, far more clever, better able to defend itself against hawks. Yet ravens are black, and they eat the dead, so some godly men abhor them. Balor the Blessed tried to replace all the ravens with doves, did you know?" The maester turned his white eyes on John, smiling. "The Night's Watch prefers ravens." John's fingers were in the bucket, blood up to the wrists. "Daiwyn says the Wildings call us crows," he said uncertainly. "The crow is the raven's poor cousin. They are both beggars in black, hated and misunderstood." John wished he understood what they were talking about and why. What did he care about ravens and doves? If the old man had something to say to him, why wouldn't he just say it? "John, did you ever wonder why the men of the Night's Watch take no wives and father no children?" Maester Aemon asked. John shrugged. "No." He scattered more meat. The fingers of his left hand were slimy with blood, and his right throbbed from the weight of the bucket. "So they will not love," the old man answered. "For love is the bane of honour, the death of duty." That did not sound right to John, yet he said nothing. The maester was 100 years old and a high officer of the Night's Watch. It was not his place to contradict him. The old man seemed to sense his doubts. "Tell me, John, if the day should ever come when your Lord Father must needs choose between honour on the one hand and those he loves on the other, what would he do?" John hesitated. He wanted to say that Lord Eddard would never dishonour himself, not even for love. Yet inside a small sly voice whispered, "He fathered a bastard. Where was the honour in that? And your mother, what of his duty to her? He will not even say her name." "He would do whatever was right," he said, ringingly, to make up for his hesitation. "No matter what." "Then Lord Eddard is a man in 10,000. Most of us are not so strong. What is honour compared to a woman's love? What is duty against the feel of a newborn son in your arms, or the memory of a brother's smile? Wind and words. Wind and words. We are only human, and the gods have fashioned us for love. That is our great glory, and our great tragedy. The men who formed the Night's Watch knew that only their courage sealed the realm from the darkness of the north. They knew they must have no divided loyalties to weaken their resolve, so they vowed they would have no wives nor children. Yet brothers they had, and sisters, mothers who gave them birth, fathers who gave them names. They came from 100 quarrelsome kingdoms, and they knew times may change. But men do not. So they pledged as well that the Night's Watch would take no part in the battles of the realm it guarded. They kept their pledge. When Aegon slew Black Harren and claimed his kingdom, Harren's brother was Lord Commander on the Wall, with 10,000 swords at hand. He did not march. In the days when the 7 kingdoms were 7 kingdoms, not a generation passed that 3 or 4 of them were not at war. The Watch took no part. When the Andals crossed the narrow sea and swept away the kingdoms of the first men, the sons of the fallen kings held true to their vows and remained at their posts. So it has been, for years beyond counting. Such is the price of honour. A craven can be as brave as any man when there is nothing to fear, and we all do our duty when there is no cost to it. How easy it seems, then, to walk the path of honour. Yet soon or late in every man's life comes a day when it is not easy, a day when he must choose. Some of the ravens were still eating, long stringy bits of meat dangling from their beaks. The rest seemed to be watching him. John could feel the weight of all those tiny black eyes. "And this is my day? Is that what you're saying?" Maester Aemon turned his head and looked at him with those dead white eyes. It was as if he was seeing straight into his heart. John felt naked and exposed. He took the bucket in both hands and flung the rest of the slops through the bars. Strings of meat and blood flew everywhere, scattering the ravens. They took to the air, shrieking wildly. The quicker birds snatched morsels on the wing and gulped them down greedily. John let the empty bucket clang to the floor. The old man laid a withered, spotted hand on his shoulder. "It hurts, boy," he said softly. "Oh, yes. Choosing. It has always hurt, and always will. I know." "You don't know," John said bitterly. "No one knows. Even if I am his bastard, he's still my father." Maester Aemon sighed. "Have you heard nothing I've told you, John? Do you think you're the first?" He shook his ancient head, a gesture weary beyond words. 3 times the gods saw fit to test my vows. Once when I was a boy, once in the fullness of my manhood, and once when I had grown old. By then my strength was fled, my eyes grown dim, yet that last choice was as cruel as my first. My ravens would bring the news from the south, words darker than their wings, the ruin of my house, the death of my kin, disgrace and desolation. What could I have done, old, blind, frail? I was as helpless as a suckling babe, yet it still grieved me to sit forgotten as they cut down my brother's poor grandson, and his son, and even the little children." John was shocked to see the shine of tears in the old man's eyes. "Who are you?" he asked quietly, almost in dread. A toothless smile quivered on the ancient lips. "Only a maester of the citadel, bound in the service to Castle Black and the Night's Watch. In my order we put aside our house names when we take our vows and don the collar." The old man touched the maester's chain that hung loosely round his thin, fleshless neck. "My father was Maekar, the first of his name, and my brother Aegon reigned after him in my stead. My grandfather named me for Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, who was his uncle, or his father, depending on which tale you believe. Aemon, he called me." "Aemon Targaryen?" John could scarcely believe it. "Once," the old man said. "Once. So you see, John, I do know. and knowing I will not tell you to stay or go. You must make that choice yourself and live with it all the rest of your days, as I have. His voice fell to a whisper. As I have.
So Dany is not the last Targaryen, then.
No, she is not.
Maester Aemon Targaryen.
The truth is out.
Right?
Secrets revealed. My gosh.
Wonder if Robert knew.
I feel like if he did, he would be dead.
Would he? Or did Ned say, he took the black, he can't interfere in our affairs anymore, leave him?
Maybe.
Does anyone know? Is Jon the only one who knows? Does Mormont even know?
Does Mormont even know? Mormont's gotta know. Come on, how does he not know? Well, I don't know.
Maester Aemon was probably there before Mormont.
That's
Maester
true.
Aemon's an old man.
That's true. He is like 100.
Yeah. Blind. Can't even see.
Yeah, that's true. And most people in Westeros do not live to be 100.
No.
He was... What did he say? He said...
We're talking about Frey living to be 90, and that was impressive.
Right.
Maybe it's the cold preserved him. That's why he's...
It's very possible that maybe Jon is the only one that knows, because everyone else that would know is dead.
Yeah. Well, except Frey.
Except Frey. Maybe he doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't see why he would, or he doesn't seem like the type that would care.
He doesn't care. Yeah, he doesn't care about anything else. Other than having hot young wives.
And a lot of children. Except I don't think he likes that part.
Yeah, I don't think he likes that at all. The sheer volume is insane. Anyway, we're not here to talk more about Walder Frey.
No, we're not. Jon. And what a crazy turn of events with Jon. He went from the last time we saw him basically being put on death row for threatening Thorne.
Yep.
And fighting a zombie, and now he's being awarded Mormont's own Valyrian steel sword.
Yeah.
That he had custom crafted for him. And
right.
Mormont has sent Alistair Thorne away.
Yep.
Well, no.
Kind of.
He sent him on a mission.
Sent him on a mission.
Because, he's got friends in low places, I guess. Southern places.
And Sir Alistair Thorne is a Sir.
Yeah.
No less, too. So he's of higher social standing than Jon.
Well, yeah.
And, how does Jon respond to all of this?
Why do they keep the Sir when they go to the Black? They lose all lands and titles. Technically, he shouldn't even be called a Sir.
That's true. I don't know. Maybe it's like you lost everything else, you can at least keep the title.
Maybe he was just a big baby when he got there. No, I'm a Sir. Sir Thorne.
Yeah, because they don't call Sam Sir Tarly.
Well, he's not Knight.
Well, no. They don't call him Lordling. Well, maybe they do call him Lordling behind his back. I don't know.
Either way.
Either way.
I'm just curious. It was probably just, they're not supposed to carry over the names, but just so he would shut up, they decided to call him Sir.
Maybe.
That's all I can think of.
But on another note, all of this happens, all of this stuff basically is a turn of events in favor of Jon. And what does Jon say? How does he respond to it?
I don't want it.
I don't want it.
Well, he didn't say that, but in his head.
He's like, I don't deserve this. I don't want this. I want my daddy's sword, even though I'd never have my daddy's sword.
I agree with Mormont and how he handled it with Jon. He was just like, shut up and take it.
Yep. Just shut up and take it.
That's kind of how I felt this whole chapter. Just, Jon, shut up. Just take the sword. Take the damn sword and be happy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, he did. He's got to deal with what, is his dad going to die?
Yep, his brother is riding to war, and
Still can't find his uncle.
still can't find his uncle. And I get his whole conflict with being a part of the Watch, but always wanting to still feel like his father's son. Like, I get the brooding and I get the conflict, but bro, realize where you're lucky. Because, dang, not everybody gets a Valyrian steel sword.
Exactly.
That should have gone to,
It's not Dad's sword. Don't want it.
Well, I mean, Jorah had his shot and he lost it, so...
Exactly.
I wonder how Jorah would feel about that.
I think he'd accept it. I think Jorah knows that he messed up. And it's his own fault.
Fair enough. He is dying to get back to Westeros, though.
That is true.
He really wants to go back.
But he seems like an honorable enough fellow to understand
why his dad decided to do what he did. Also, it seems that that burn that Jon got is pretty terrible. It's not it sounds like it sucks. Really sounds like it sucks.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking, like, later in the... We're jumping to the show. No spoilers, but I'm thinking later in the show.
Yeah.
Does he have a burned hand? Because I'm pretty sure that carries over. I mean, he obviously has scars from it. He burnt his hand really bad, but I don't think they actually show that in the show.
I don't think so.
I think he's supposed... I think he has it for, like, a season, and then...
It's just back to normal.
Yeah.
But in the book, it's...
It doesn't describe it much after this, but...
It's there.
It's there. I mean, it has to be there. I don't know. I was just thinking about that in the show. I don't remember him having like a scarred hand later.
No, he doesn't. I don't think.
So maybe another mess up with the show. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Have to go watch the show again.
Yeah, that's true. It's been a while. But the thing about his whole conversation with Maester Aemon, I think we are introduced to one of the big themes throughout the entire story. Is love is the death of duty.
Yes. The first one we heard is love is the death of beauty. Now love is the death of duty. Yep. Love is just the killer.
Right? And it's so funny because what is it in Harry Potter? Love is the solution to everything.
I know, we really got the yin to the Harry Potter yang here.
I don't know if that's exactly what Martin is saying, though, that love ruins everything. I think it's exploring the conflicts that love creates, set against the backdrop of this society that is so structured and rigid that there's no room for love.
Well, that
and I incredibly self-destructive. And
I think it points out how love isn't easy. Love takes sacrifices.
And but at the same time, if you're going to fulfill your duty and you're going to be all about that, you have to sacrifice love. And all the conflict that presents for people, I think, is a major theme here. And Jon just got smacked in the face with it.
So I'll say it again. Who hurt you, Martin? Who?
But I think Maester Aemon is definitely looking at him like, are you going to start riding south to join your brother? Think about it, dude. Think about it.
Didn't Martin get married not too long ago?
Like a few years ago.
That's it. That's why we haven't gotten Winds of Winter. He fell in love, and he forgot his duty. He's living the story, and we have to suffer the price. Us common people, waiting for Winds of Winter.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's it!
I don't remember when he got married, but it was a few years ago. But he's been married for a little bit.
Exactly. Oh, I just thought of that.
Oh, no.
His love
is ruining Winds of Winter?
Yes. Well, probably not ruining it, but making me wait too damn long. That's for sure. I still think it's going to be good.
Oh, it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for it. It's going to be fantastic.
Like, I have no doubt in the quality of the book. The wait's killing me. And that's probably the fact that I know the book quality is going to be good. It's the reason why it's so hard to wait. Either way, John, can he wait to find out what happened to Eddard, or is he going to run away? As Aemon has said, he has to choose.
Yes, is he going to forsake his duty for his love of his family? Or is he going to remain a watcher on the wall and continue to be the Night's Watchman?
Well, at this point, I mean, if all was quiet on the wall, I'd say, well, it's like a 50-50 shot, but
there are
some zombies. Like, maybe by staying at the wall, you're doing your family more justice, protecting them from the zombie uprising. And
Mormont actually brings up the zombies, because he's just like, yeah, we kind of thought this was like a dead and gone thing. But he pretty much says we haven't seen this shit for like 8,000 years. So it's literally saying, like, are these the White Walkers? Is this the long night coming again? I don't know. But I feel it in my bones that it's getting awfully cold, boy. I'm just like, why does every old man say that?
Feel it in my bones.
Yeah. My bones are aching. It means it's cold. Like, I don't know. I feel like Mormont and Maester Aemon are both telling Jon, like, look, just remember, you are a bastard. Even if you go ride with your family and this and this and this and this, you're still always going to be a bastard.
And you're not going to be welcome back on the watch.
Yeah.
If we don't cut off your head first.
Right. And who's to say that Robb won't cut off your head for deserting the Night's Watch?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he would.
I don't think he would
but
either.
Maybe another lord would.
Yeah.
I don't know. And they're just like, dude, yeah, there's a war down there, but we have zombies up here. And I just gave you a really cool sword, and you're like the most popular dude at the school.
Grab my sword and take it and go.
I mean, this is like post Chamber of Secrets. Jon. He just killed the monster.
Caps Lock Jon.
No. He just killed the monster. He got a really cool sword. Everyone just thinks he's the coolest dude ever. Dumbledore told him what was up. Like, come on. Don't do something stupid.
But remember, Jon is a teenage boy, so
I know.
It doesn't take a genius to know. Man's gonna do something stupid. If he goes a week without doing something stupid.
He even thinks about how Ghost was an outsider, and how he heard Ghost, and they kicked all the other direwolves kicked Ghost out because he wasn't like the rest of them, and now he has a sword that's got Ghost's face on it, and he's kind of like, well, you and Ghost are kind of like two peas in a pod there, bud. Oh my god, Lola.
Exactly.
Oh my god, Lola.
Stick with Ghost. Ghost will lead the way.
He is good boy.
I mean, Jon would have never saved his own skin. He would have never known that the White Walker was there to save Mormont. He would have just woken up to
zombie.
Well, probably a zombie coming into his room to kill him.
Yep.
But after Mormont was dead.
Right.
And then either that, or the zombie wouldn't come in there, and they would blame him for that then. And then he'd still be put to death.
Yeah.
So either way, if it wasn't for Ghost,
that's right,
Jon would be dead.
That's right. Maybe Ghost and the Night's Watch are your family, Jon. And maybe you just need to figure that out.
But will he? That's the question.
That is the question.
But we'll have to wait, because we're traveling as far away from Jon as we can to Dany next time.
Yay!
To see how her pregnancy is going. Whether she's ready to pop.
Yay!
How the Khal is doing.
Yes.
After... What was the last Dany chapter we read? Was it the Crown? No. No, it was the poison?
The poison.
Poison, yes. Poison.
Yeah, it was the poison.
The poison for Dany. Poison specially made for Dany.
Dany's poison. Dany's poison. It's all coming together.